Brilliant advice, by the way.
It's one of the hardest things I think people have to learn is do what you're good at and not what you love. Save what you love for off hours.
And the other thing too, like it's a fact that you can always find passion in what you do. But yeah, like for the first time in almost 2 decades, I was actually looking for a staff job. I only spent 5 days initially just having some breakfast with a few different companies, but that was one of the things that I brought up a lot, was that the idea isn't to try and get sell me on something really exciting. Whatever I do, I'm going to find challenges in it. You don't need to spoon feed me the stuff. I think in general, you can always find something. You can become passionate about what you're doing, and that's part of the job as well. It isn't that you're only going to do what you enjoy doing, because that is going to be a lot harder to get to get fulfillment in, as well as be able to get a paycheck in. So I think it is you look for what's practical first, and then you try to find enjoyment and fulfillment in that.
Yeah, back when I was sculpting, my favorite part was always doing the detail work. I hated blocking. I hated these big slabs of clay. But you have to get through the blocking in order to get to the detail. Every job in the world is 100% shit 70% of the time. Mm-hmm. But it's that 30%. It's that's the gold. But you've got to, it's a job. It's work. Yeah. That's why they pay you.
Yeah, we get so disillusioned thinking, especially video games, that, oh yeah, I'm going to get to play games, drink soda, eat pizza, and then occasionally do some work. And it's a business, It's a business.
And it's a business with deadlines, and it's a business with, that generates more money than film does. And there's this, because it's called gaming, people think it's going to be, like you said, a party. And it is at some times, but you pay for that party.
I think for, let's say, a junior or mid-level artist, knowing that I think of everything a bit like a triangle, where at the very base, at the very bottom when you're starting out, usually there's a lot more competition. You're also at the bottom, so it means that you don't have as much experience, you don't have the reputation, you're also not being paid as much. But the further up the pyramid you go, the more that there aren't as many people competing, because you now have niched down to a degree. It also means that the money, the opportunities, all of these things are a lot higher up as well. And so knowing at the very beginning that you do have a lot of competition, you don't necessarily have a UVP to kind of stand behind. What advice would you give for junior mid-level artists to be able to stand out, and for employers to take a chance on them?
In the early days of recruiting, we would get physical portfolios, right? You'd get people who dropped off their books, often the original art, which was never a good idea.
I did that once.
Yep, never do that. So, we would get these books, and that was the only time that artist got exposure. Was when a recruiter, not even a supervisor yet, because they had to go through the filtering system. So an RC, recruiting coordinator, first looked at them, and then, oh, this is good, I'll give it to the recruiter who looked at him, and then, oh, I'll take this to a supervisor, and then look at it. So just the mechanics of getting eyes on your artwork was so restrictive. That funnel point was so small. Now you've got Instagram. You can put whatever you want on there. And you can tag people. I'm going to @mention so, @mention so-and-so. That doesn't mean they're going to look at it, but you brought it to their attention. And just, playing the odds, you start @mentioning all these people, someone's going to take a look at it. And if you're savvy and you're not rude, they may give you some feedback. And then like we talked about before, you take that feedback, you add it into the work, you redisplay it with notes from so-and-so. Here's, I'm re-showing my artwork, which tells the industry, people like me who are looking, they take direction, right? They're not so precious with their artwork. There's no pearl clutching going on when you're critiquing their artwork. And that's the big difference. The internet has leveled the playing field. Just like in social media, everyone has a soapbox to spout their opinions, be they crazy or be they sane. Everyone who has a creative bent, who wants to show their artwork, can show their artwork, and they can get exposure, and you can start building a brand. This is how influencers work. I'm going to have an opinion, I'm going to visualize that opinion, I'm going to share it, people are going to like it, they're going to follow me. Then I'm going to build my brand. Well, that was impossible to do easily 25 years ago, 30 years ago. But now, 8-year-olds are doing it. You've got that kid who makes how many millions of dollars a year just unboxing things? it's the same. Show your artwork to as many people as you possibly can. Go to LinkedIn, type in a studio's name. That's all their recruiters. Look who I'm looking for on Instagram, not on LinkedIn. Kind of move away from that when it comes to visuals. That's great if you're an accountant, but we're not talking to accountants. And start building your brand and start generating get people to comment. Mm-hmm. Don't be shy. Like, rip this apart, roast my art.
Yeah.
And start taking that feedback. And you don't have to take all of it, but the people like, oh, that one makes sense, I'm going to do that again, repost. That was impossible to do before.
I love that, because a lot of people are going to dismiss that one piece of information right away, like, oh, it's not that easy, or I've already done that, which there's doing it right and there's doing it wrong. And you're absolutely right. Like, being able to demonstrate your creative process, as well as being able to find a way to communicate that I can take direction, which, as you said, showing multiple works in progress and showing that you've taken constructive criticism and been able to turn that around, that means that you're moldable. It means that you're able to work. I was chatting with a VFX supervisor over at Scanline not that long ago, Brian Hirota, and this is something that we both were talking about, is that juniors usually go into a movie thinking that it's their movie, and it's usually more when you become a senior that's when you understand the machine. And it's always about building the vocabulary with the director and understanding what they want and being able to deliver those needs.
Yeah, that's it. I love telling student filmmakers, like, enjoy this. Enjoy seeing your vision from start to finish, because if you start working in the industry, the odds of this ever happening again are not in your favor.
Even as a feature film director, I've got so many friends now, like at least 4 friends I can think of off the top of my head, who they've all had opportunities to go and direct feature films, and they've I've got a lot of friends who are feature film directors, but that handful of people have all walked away because they're like, no, like this isn't, even though it's my vision is based on my short film, this isn't going to be my baby if I put it in the hands of these people and they don't want to play the game. So even at the pinnacle where you think that, like, great, I'm the director, it's like, no, there's always a producer on top of that.
Yeah, when I was teaching at Loyola Marymount, I had Ash Brandon, who was one of the co-directors of Surf's Up, which was one of the favorite films I've ever been a part of. And I wanted him to come in to talk to the class about, hey, you know what? Marketing really kind of directs this movie.
That's right.
The music department kind of wants this song. It's not your film. Unless you become a Spielberg, unless you become, a Scorsese, then it's your film. But even they are catching headwinds from studio executives about, well, we don't like that, and you have to change it.
Yeah.
It's tough. Again, going to advice I just gave to someone who's got a creative child, and they're trying to navigate because they don't take criticism well. It's like they can do the artwork, but the minute someone says, I don't like that, they're like, fuck them. And it's like, well, you're going to have to develop a little bit more of a callus on that creative spirit of yours, because it's commercial art.
Yeah.
And you have to follow the money. And ultimately, it's the person who's writing that check who has final say over your abilities. And you may think it's the greatest piece of artwork in the world, but if they don't want it blue and you painted it blue, you're making it whatever color they want, and you say thank you so much for the check. And then you take that money and you go create your own artwork at home, and you do whatever you damn well please with it. I don't think plumbers get so attached to the elbow joints they put under toilets the way artists and creatives get so attached to everything that they do. Like, it's part of them. And when a contractor comes in and tells a plumber, move that 3 inches over, they're just like, all right, I'll be happy to do it. That's my job. Yeah. But with creatives, that should be more blue. Like, I didn't feel it was blue. Well, I understand you don't feel that, but that's what the film calls for. We as creatives, if I can, vainly put myself in that pool, need to be better about understanding our place in the process. If we're working on a film, we're extensions of the director's wrist. And if they're a good director, they'll set barriers for us to color in between. And they may let us color outside of the line on occasion, but we have to stay inside those lines. And as long as we're creative within that space, that's what we're getting paid for.
That's it. And I think it's about changing the conversation, because you're right. Like, a lot of times it's like, well, I'm the artist, you should trust me, or whatever. There's so many ignorant things that get spat around. The thing is that I think if you change the narrative from this person's making my art look bad or whatever, it's actually like, no, like we're a team and we're executing on someone's vision. We're using our skill sets to come in and play our role. And the thing is, the funny thing is that the more that, as you just pointed out about taking direction, the more that you're able to understand and ask good questions, and be able to say, hey, I did what you said, and if you have a spare 10 minutes, you want to go and do an extra, variation that's your own, you can make that suggestion too. But the whole point is that if you're easy to work with, you will succeed because people want you back on the team. If there's a lot of massaging just to get someone to actually do what they're being paid to do, there's a lot of hesitation to want to work with them again.
Fall in love with the studio, not with the film. Unless you plan on moving. Like if you're going to quit after every film and go find another, that's great. If you're going to run a picture hire, fantastic. But if you're going to plan on sticking around and building a career, for God's sake, understand how office politics work.
Yeah.
Or just understand how people work. If a dog comes up and bites you every time it sees you, you're going to stop petting that dog. It's
funny because I keep having the nagging, complaining person kind of in my ear when you say all these things of like how they will fight back. You'd be like, well, I'm an artist. I don't want to have to play politics. And I think that's where the word politics can not backfire, but it's an easy way for people to look at it subjectively and think like, there's politics and everything, and I don't want to play that. But it's really just your career is strategy. Like everything is strategy. And one of the supervisors at Digital Domain, he once said to me over lunch, he's like, do you think people hire you because you like to go drinking? And it was just like this weird thing, which for probably a year or two, I thought about it a lot. I'm like, that's absurd. But then I'm like, I kind of started to understand, like, because he broke it down to me as basically, you're fun to work with and you bring up the energy in the team. Do you think that that's actually a reason people hire you? And
yes,
in a way, like I don't see it that way, but I can see the value in that because there are definitely people that I will put together because they're very chill, but they need somebody who's going to need to, push them or encourage the rest of them. And you kind of do need to think of how people play together. So I can see the benefit there of, hey, so-and-so's coming in, this is going to be a fun job. Like, there's definitely a benefit to that.